It's lovely to see you all here. My name's Loretta. I'm co-founder of TheIndustry.Fashion. This is our first scale-up session that we have staged. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your brand. We'll get into the story in a moment, but just a brief introduction.
So hi everybody, my name is Seppi. I'm the founder of the brand Seppi Agari. We are a Belgian designed handbag brand, but we fully source and manufacture in Italy. It's very much about quality, craftsmanship, and I'd love to share a bit more about the journey in a second. So I won't reel too much already.
Yeah, save it. It's all very exciting stuff. Since you're doing the water, I will go to you, Eric. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Blackman, and your role within the company, please.
Yeah, I work for Blackman for 7 years now, and previously I was always in an operational role. So ending up in roles like being a campus director, being in charge of multiple fulfillment locations in all sorts of sectors. But at Blackman, I was hired to bring guidance and standardization in one of the bigger locations. And I did that in such a way that the founder and co-owner said, wait, I want you in front of the customer at the very beginning of the negotiations and well, let's say the solution finding phase, so that we will always be handing the solution and giving the support and unburdening that specific customer is looking for.
Hans, please tell us about you, the renewal workshop, and your role within that, please.
So I'm just Hans. It's simpler than my colleague Eric. I'm with Blackman for 4 years now. I had to think a bit. Responsible for the renewal workshop. And with the renewal workshop, we give damaged fashion items a second life or a third life or fourth or a next life, let's say. And that can be through cleaning, repair, photography, preparation for resale. And we do this in business models like trade-in and resale re-commerce, but also rental, also damage returns, etc., etc.
Yeah. Tell us about you before you set up this brand and what inspired you to set up this brand.
Definitely. So my background is I studied a master's degree in commercial engineering. I started working as a finance manager for fashion brands and built up my career becoming a group financial manager for fashion brands across EMEA. Mm-hmm. It was very much also being a business partner. So I learned a lot by partnering with different departments from marketing, design, product development, and so on. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, it helped me to look at different perspectives to a business, from having like the strategic view or the budgeting, and also seeing low level, like what does that really mean in the business? Mm-hmm. And I feel like that was really like a good building block to start your own brand, because it's really much helps me to have a critical view and also make decisions based upon like an understanding of what the implications are.
Of course.
And even though I really enjoyed my career, I always had this passion for the creative side of things, like wanting to design, but also craftsmanship. And that kind of like drove me to take a leap of faith and start my own journey. I quit my job. I went to Italy. I was like, I'm going to go and learn everything from master artisans. And I really learned like the art of bag making. There's so much that goes into bag making that doesn't meet the eye. There's so much in terms of like construction, but also like how the leather feels, how you have to think in terms of like pattern making and so on. And so I really feel like if you want to create a product, you have to speak the language. And I have to tell you, because the thing is, we really wanted, like starting this journey, it was all about creating a high value product. And so we really wanted that if the customer opens their packaging and see the bag, that they have this like wow feeling. Yes. And so we didn't want to compromise on anything.
For us, it's really important to also know the product. What product are we talking about? And I really like the passion in which Seppi is talking about the construction of the item, the materials that are used, because that's also something that we need to bring to the repair of the product.
Why are you, as a company, so keen to nurture brands from this size, and what sort of services do you offer that help them on that initial growth journey?
Well, on one hand, it's incredibly fun to be able to add value to somebody as passionate. When we find them early, we get to grow with them.
Yeah.
And so it's a mix in the partnership. On one hand, we're egoistic. We want to have the new best thing in town. On the other side, we want to have fun.
Yeah.
You're helping somebody succeed. And on the other hand, they are helping me to scope what is new, what is the new trend under the kids.
I think like when you have your own brand, especially when you're like in the beginning stages, you have to like divide yourself across so many things. And so it's important to really outsource what you can to a partner that is better at it and have the experience in there and can help you, but you grow at the same time together.
A strong emphasis on partnership.
Yes.
And so a bit of advice, when you feel like you're going to be a customer, get out of the room and find somebody else. When the person in front of you is actually keen on showing what else they or us can do to make your life easier, then stay seated and talk about what you need. The unpacking experience and the customer satisfaction is up there where you need it to be. So we have Gymshark, chuck it in a pouch and get it to the customer as soon as possible, all the way up to Karl Lagerfeld or brands where we need to fold it in a certain way, put a scent on it, handwritten cards, nice bow, special packaging.
Yeah.
Well, the last couple of years, we had a lot of brands reaching out and saying, well, maybe I'm cheeky, but can I work with you guys?
Yeah.
Because they saw Patagonia and Abercrombie & Fitch and Superdry,
Yeah.
these mega companies. And they said, I think I'm too small. And we said, no, absolutely not. Come in. So now we invested a lot of time, money, energy, blood and sweat and passion to make sure that everybody knows that we're here for the long run.
What were some of the challenges of getting this off the ground that were the biggest, I suppose, learning curves for you?
I have to say there has been so many, because I feel like oftentimes people think that what we do is very glamorous, but 99% of it is really like, you have to love it. You have to like push through, like be able to execute, like find the problems, solve them, find new opportunities, and like split yourself and give everything you have to it. So I think challenges, I've had many of them, but I'm also so grateful because those are really like the big learnings. We always wanted to build this brand being scalable. That was important. And so early on, we wanted to have processes and systems to make that happen. We wanted to have a partner that would enable us to be scalable. And so that's when we started looking. And obviously, Blackman is the best in this area. And we're very grateful to have their experience on board. We can grow together and learn from each other. And to your point, it's a great partnership.
You wanted to be an international brand from the outset, right?
Yes. And being able to do these things, like, for example, US is a very interesting market for us. Obviously, Trump tariffs makes it a little bit more tricky, but Blackman has the perfect capabilities. When we want to move our goods, we can trust them in their hands, and then they can enable us to serve that market too.
I know you don't like the word, you don't do off-the-shelf solutions, but you have B-scale, don't you, which is for the smaller brands.
We don't do off the shelf, but we do consolidated volumes. And that's where you use a highly standardized process and a highly automated process to make sure that our efficiency is as good as possible, limiting the operational costs for brands like yourself. And indeed, when you talk to us and you want to start selling in the US, for example, more likely than not, all the other brands that are also in B scale are confronted with the same issues. Trump's tariffs, expensive across the ocean postage, etc. But when you play that numbers game correctly and you consolidate those volumes, and I ship your boxes together with Wolk Antwerp, you can consolidate those volumes, lower the cost per unit, and make America accessible again. When these lovely bags need to be sold via Macy's or Saks Fifth Avenue, or even more posh platforms. We have a solution, Global Bridge, where we would quite frankly, unburden you to a maximum.
Yeah.
Because you are now getting more well-known in our own Benelux and in the UK, but you may not be too well-known in the US. So when you call, why would somebody at Saks Fifth Avenue pick up? They don't know you guys. But I'm in front of them twice a week. And I say, look at this. You need to sell this. And they say, absolutely. Because they don't need to do any onboarding. They don't need to do any account management. They don't need to do any contract negotiations or integrations. Because everything goes through me.
It's a smart way of getting a foothold in that market, isn't it? Without it being too scary, because there is opportunity in America. And
what I always say is that normally you would feel with your pinky toe, you would feel the water, and now you can simply jump in because there are no costs. There are no costs involved.
Let's all do it, yeah. How are people feeling, Hans and Eric, about whether or not they've got a good logistics setup that would support their future growth?
Logistics normally is the last point people look at, and it's in all fairness, it's a cost.
Yeah,
it's something that you cannot avoid. But your heart is not at it. It's at your product. It's at sales. It's not about the back office, so to speak.
Yeah.
And B, there's no value in it for most people, and so they go for the lowest rate.
yeah.
But you should not do that. You should look for the lowest rate for the service that you're looking for, not for the service that you're getting for that rate. And that's why we see that quite a lot.
Like, when customers order and something goes wrong, like you paid 600 euros and your bag like hasn't arrived, like that really like gives people...
That's not great.
No, it gives them like an annoying feeling, and it's like, where is my item? And so what do I have to do? And if that, like the time frame in order for them to get it resolved takes too long, they might like not come back. So
Correct.
You really need like
Correct.
good people to also be able to handle that properly.
Yeah, that is indeed correct. So 95% of the consumers say, I understand that sometimes mistakes are made.
They do.
But only 25% of the consumers say it's acceptable that I need to call a second time.
But if your logistics provider is yourself, you can just decide how good you are at it yourself.
I have to say, I went and I went and visited your facility in Grobbendonk, and I was just sharing this to you before the conversation started. It's quite a cool facility. Like, if you ever get the chance, please go and have a look. Like, you guys have these robots, I don't know how you call them again, but auto stores, and they kind of like go and pick things around, and it's kind of like fun to see how fast and efficient they are, but also like the whole return process, like it's also good for the people working there. They can do things way more efficiently, so it's quite advanced. And I think like the whole loop of sending things but also getting return, it's quite impressive.
If I'm a brand, whether I'm starting out, whether I'm already established, and I want to embed that in my business, we're not talking about I want to give it to somebody else to do on the side. Where do I start? And just philosophically, at least, where do I start to do that?
Well, I think that circularity for most brands is still about innovation. It's something so new to a fashion brand that it's not just selling a new product or a new collection, let's say. It's very difficult to know exactly when can you scale a circular business model. And oftentimes people are pushing too quickly to scale without them having solved an actual problem of their customer. And you mentioned this as well, Seppi. It's your customer has a problem. You find a solution, and then you try to test: is this the right fit between my solution and the customer's problem?
Okay, we've landed on what we think would be a great way to approach circularity. You need to be able to deliver it, and you need to be able to deliver it at scale, don't you?
Yeah, correct. And I think definitely for established brands, in scaling, you have an advantage that you already have scale. You already have your marketing in place. You already have your sales channels. You already have a supply chain.
Yeah.
So if you want to bring your circular business model to scale, it would be more efficient to use your existing scale and not try to build it up somewhere separately with a separate team, a separate supply chain, et cetera, because then you have no advantage compared to the next company, let's say.
Yeah. There's another word up there that says legislation. So I'm wondering actually Well, they might not care, but you're going to have to do it anyway. So.
Yeah, it's a bit the carrot and the stick, I think. And indeed, legislation will be coming. I think UK is also following quite closely on the EU legislation, right to repair, EPR, and these kind of schemes. But that's a bit the stick. So that's all. That's not as fun to work on circularity if there is a big stick trying to hit you. Customers, I think it depends on what segment you look at.
Yeah.
I'm sure that a lot of customers don't really care about circularity as long as it's flashy and cheap, so to speak.
Yeah.
But a lot do care and make a conscious choice about what they wear or do not buy and buy secondhand or rent. And that group is only growing. You see it in every statistic that's being published, the growing secondhand market.
Yeah.
So I'm convinced that it's not so much the if, but it's a when.
So is repair economically viable for even low price points?
Yeah, and it's multiple aspects to the answer. In repair, if you look at repairing an item, damage returns, for example, is a big issue, I think, for every brand. Sure. Maybe there are a couple of exceptions in the room, but typically 20 to 30% comes back of what you send out, and of these 5% is damaged one way or another.
Yeah.
Normally, nothing is done with these damaged items. We see that we can bring back 50% of these damaged items to new state, so they can be sold as new again. So then you have the full retail value, and your cost is, let's say, somewhere between 5 and 10 pounds per item. So there it's already very easy to calculate a business case, which is most of the time positive. Mm-hmm. Trade-in items, of course, is a bit more difficult because they are pre-worn, and you have to look at reductions on your new price between 30 and 50%. The renewal activities are a bit more complex to definitely if you talk about re-commerce, but also there we see cases for brands that are very positive, and not only because they are financially positive, but also because they attract a new pool of customers that would not be able to pay the full amount, let's say, but that are able to pay for that brand 30 to 50% reduction.
The biggest fashion retailer in France is actually Vinted, isn't it? So they'll think, I want that thing from Zara, I'll just check if it's on Vinted before I go to Zara. You know, that's what's going on there.
Yes. And as a brand, you don't capture that value, right? All these items that are sold via Vinted, it's gone. And so organizing your own trade-in and then resale program makes perfect sense, because then you capture value out of these worn items that are otherwise sold via the platforms.
Yeah.
That legislation is coming. And so even though it's been pushed out a couple of times now, eventually you will need to be able to prove where your product has ended up. You will not be allowed to simply burn it, destroy it, send it to Africa. You're going to have a product passport, and on a serial number level, you need to be able to prove that my wife bought it, you have it in the warehouse, it's being repaired and resold, etc.
Yeah, we are a logistics company, so everything is about efficiency.
Yes.
Even repair and cleaning.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is in Holland, I think, Almelo.
Yeah.
Meaning that your products are not being shipped back to Asia or Northern Africa. We do that in country to maximize your revenue retention.
I really enjoyed talking to you. Thank you very, very much for coming all the way to London to speak to us today. I really appreciated it. We'll hear more from you later on this afternoon. But in the meantime, everybody, give them a big old warm round of applause. That was lovely.
Thank you so much, Laura.
Pleasure.
I was actually working at ASOS at the time. Henriette Madoffin had like a few months kind of traveling with summer, and then she came back. We literally pretty much started that weekend working like weekends and kind of evenings, literally set it up from the kind of university living room. Yeah. And I mean, we honestly did not really know what we were doing.
You liked vintage. I know you didn't want it to trend, did you?
Do you know, I think we knew there was a price point that we wanted, because I think we've both kind of grown up outside of London. And I think sometimes you can be in such a London bubble that like, this is normal price points when you go into Selfridges and all the rest. And actually, there is a certain price point that we were like, I feel like there's such a gap for what we want, my friends want, like what, you know, it's still perfect, still people that have like even disposable income, but there's just other pressures in life that it's not that normal. You go and spend £500 on a dress. So we had the price point. We didn't know print was going to be necessarily the winning thing that would get us known. And we knew we liked really premium fabrics and like finishes and things. So, and a femininity as well. And we always based our retails only purely on what we felt the value was. And now that we've kind of worked with like more agencies, everyone's got an opinion. And we've actually recently been like, should we be going back to what we think is right rather than trying to please everybody? Because that was our USP. We were the competitive side of contemporary. So
yes.
you have to be really careful on how far you can push things as well. We'd literally be like, oh, we'll give you the stock today if you want it and you can try it. And luckily it worked.
They were prepared to have a go. I remember talking
we were almost preparing to say, look, we'll put the stock in your store and see how it goes. We were like kind of taking the risk, which sometimes you've got to kind of weigh up and go, well, it's not the perfect solution, but it's better than having it all sat in ours and no one knows it yet. So,
but even on that basis, you got some pretty, big name retailers on board quite early.
Yeah.
I remember you saying, you invited Harrods to the flat.
Yeah.
And they turned up and were like, oh, it's a flat. Yeah. And they came.
I know. Yeah, it was funny. It was, but I think because, and we were actually, I was on a wholesale call this morning, and when you've got such a close relationship with a buyer, and because we did a bit of everything, like I remember being like obsessed with an Net-a-Porter sell-through on a Monday, and I'd be off like create and arrange design, like it would be such a close relationship. And I remember thinking, I'm so glad that we have that connection with the buyers, because there's so much little fickle things on a week-to-week basis that you can put forward and we could almost make it happen in real time, because we were just like, oh, it's happening today. Like there just was no other option of like waiting to the next market or anything else. We were just so agile and just so on it in terms of making sure that relationship was strong. I think it worked. The fact that they came to the living room, they were on WhatsApp to us, because they were just, there was no team to deal with. It was like, oh, I can just get the answers straight away.
This is a goer. We've got a business on our hands.
Yeah, it's really strange, because I think we both never thought, what if this doesn't necessarily work? I think we were so ingrained in the business that we never really let our mind wander that far that it wouldn't work. I know that sounds like, it wasn't like we had this like cocksure confidence that, oh, this is going to work. I think we were just so ingrained in getting on with doing things that we just didn't let the what ifs really enter our head. When you're so much in the doing, like to come and even do this talk today, like it's so lovely to be able to get out and meet other people in the industry and be more involved. But sometimes you've just got to sometimes you've just got to like prioritize that. There's, as we don't have investment, there's a lot that's still on your shoulders that you've just got to get on and do the doing yourself as well. So I think we're not really in that position where we can just be founders,
swank around,
if that makes sense.
Yeah. We've been talking today about investment.
Yeah.
And maybe this isn't great for you, but you've bootstrapped this completely from the get-go.
Yeah.
That's got to be fairly unusual, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
was that a conscious decision, or did it just sort of happen that way as you grew?
It was conscious, because someone did want to invest in us like quite early on. And I remember we were really like, oh, maybe we do need this, because they were like, okay, what do you think is going to happen when you take on the likes of a big Net-a-Porter and a Saks and all the rest? Like, you don't have the experience to manage that. And we were like, well, maybe we don't. And we really did doubt ourselves, but we did hold off. We held off. And I do think that was the right thing. And look, there's definitely things when you are more bootstrapped that like not everything's going to fit in a perfect box, but I would prefer to be so more focused on delivering the value for the customer and what is actually making a better brand. Like, I also think Rixo is quite a unique brand in that it's still quite unique in its style, and it is that like we always talk about that thrill of the find. It's someone that wants to look unique and feel a little bit different, and she's almost like found it by accident. She's like, oh, this, like, we'd have so much customers telling us that it was their little secret in terms of the brand. So I think looking at like, I think you could lose your magic if you don't approach growth in the right way.
What is the shape of the business now then, in terms of the channels through which you sell, the number of stores, because you are a retailer now as well, aren't you?
Yeah. We'll be 7 stores in a few weeks' time.
7?
Yeah.
Are they all London?
I'm going to try and remember.
Go on, tell us.
So we've got, obviously you've got Marylebone, Carnaby, Kings Road,
yeah,
Kildare, New York,
yeah,
Bicester Village. Which one am I missing?
So there's one missing.
Notting Hill.
Notting Hill. There you go.
Thanks, Josie.
When did you move into retail, and how did that change things for the business?
Both me and Henrietta weren't really online shoppers, and even to this day, like I hardly have it. Like the only things that come to the house is my husband's like Amazon parcels, and I don't really online shop. Not really. Like the odd things that I'll buy like on Etsy and things. I'm just not a big online shopper, and neither's Henrietta either.
Isn't she?
Yeah, we're both
Look at
like
you,
we do it on necessity.
Yeah.
But we love the idea of like the fight. Like we love going and like finding things and unique things and stuff. So we did our first pop up like literally within like a month, 2 months of starting the brand, and we literally had to do it because we're like, we need to get the stock going. We need to start like literally getting out there and selling the stuff. Yeah. But like stores have done so well from us, and I think we literally did this grand kind of plan. My sister who lived with us helped us with it, where we imagined the coffee shop and the bar and everything. Like we did this. It was literally the weekend that the person wanted to invest in us, and we were like, we need to be confident in ourselves and do a bit of a business plan just for us. And we got her to design the store that weekend, and it really reminds me and Henrietta of the Keens Road store of what it is today. But I think like there's like we had an event there last night, and I know people talk about community, but it makes you want to feel like it is a brand. I think when you go into the store, you don't feel like, oh, this is a bit of a snooty store in a posh area. Like you want to go in and shop and feel good, and you come out with a positive experience.
Because one of the first things you do when you walk in is there's an alterations and repairs.
Yeah, and it's so busy
in the store.
Yeah, it's really busy.
So
really busy.
if I go in to buy a dress and I don't know, I want it taken. You can do it there and then, right?
I mean, because that's as much as we're known for print. Like, I actually am obsessed with fit and how something makes you feel in what you're wearing.
Yeah.
So like the smallest tweak, like even when I'm wearing Rixo, like I will get it altered sometimes if I've got it away and stuff, just so it's like perfect fit, because it can make such a difference to how the dress hangs, and everyone's so different in body shape, and you know, sometimes that odd little tweak can just make such a difference.
You mentioned New York there. We've talked about again this morning about international expansion. How did you approach moving into the American market, and why did you choose America in the first place?
We were seeing the like organic traction online, so we weren't really doing anything from a strategic perspective, but we could see there was a bit of a gap.
So they were ordering from your e-commerce website?
They were ordering from our e-commerce website, so we set a little bit of a kind of like US website up in terms of making sure that we had the pricing and the kind of like delivery proposition, just like the basically
and were
standards.
you fulfilling the orders from the UK?
We were, yeah. And we still are. So we don't have a US warehouse. And then we were like, right, let's do a pop-up. And we'd found a space that we felt like was the right fit for the brand. And again, like being, I suppose, a bit more bootstrapped, that's where you've got to not go so heavy on the investment. You've got to make sure that the space works. Would you want to keep it on full time? Like how far into the investment do you go? And I hopefully with all this tariff hopefully subsiding, we would love to, you know, make that store feel like a little mini flagship in the US.
So you 10 years, happy birthday.
Thank you.
What did you do to market, and what does it mean for you now, a decade in?
Yeah, I mean, well, the fashion show was one of our reasons kind of for like celebrating the brand, and it felt like that was a really important thing for us to do. We've rebranded, and we've obviously launched a new website. There's a few other things kind of happening this year as well. Like we're kind of celebrating it throughout the year.
Yeah.
But it does feel like quite an important kind of milestone that we've got here.
Yeah.
Without the investment, and we feel like I think there's so much more still kind of to do. You
work with Blackman, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't know that when we asked you to do this, so that was a coincidence, but a happy one. What's the experience like when I received my Rixo parcel? Are you very particular about what that looks, smells, and feels like when people
get it?
Funny
you should say that. I spent last Friday. We started redesigning our
customers is what I'm trying to ask. Yeah.
Well, do you know, it was funny because we started redoing. I'm not as involved in the logistics side of it. Henrietta's more involved in that, but I'm involved in like what it looks like, and we've did this rebrand and we're kind of reworking on our packaging. And I was like, okay, so if we like literally, I was at one of the suppliers was like, oh, I'll bring something. I was like, no. I was like, we're coming to you and we're going into your messy room and I'm going to be pulling out things that I like. And they were like, we've never had anyone before. I'm like, this is what we need to do, because we were like, we want to get going with it. I don't want to wait for all the sample, and I actually want to see all different finishes and like be able to cherry pick and find out what I think's like. So we did that on Friday, and there were so many things like how we were trying to figure out how we're going to ship all of our jewelry. And it's like, as much as like, right, okay, we need this is going to be aired with the jewelry, but this is going to go by boat. We don't want the warehouse having to put the back of the earring on. So we need to consider how it's going to be, how the jewelry is going to be shipped. There's all these little things that we were considering. And even like the flat pack box, there was one that had this extra like kind of flap over, and we were like, that's going to be too long. The depth's going to be too much for the person packing. There's so many considerations. So hopefully they're going to love us when they get the new packaging, that it's so considered for the person doing the packing.
Isn't that nice? Thinking about your team as part of the...
The only thing is we have to pay by the time. So I'm like trying to get these see those vases. I'm like, get them cut right down. I'm like, right, we're going to time how quick we can get this box made up.
So, Krishna, I think one of the most emotional parts of businesses is when the founder-led businesses and they've never given up equity before. And you've got an extensive experience advising founder-led businesses or management-owned businesses through various funding rounds. What advice do you give to founders when they're starting this process?
Yeah, it's a great question. This is the fourth founder-led situation I've been in, and I think with something like funding, you have to take the emotion out of it, essentially. And, the first question to me you have to ask is, does my business model work? That is the foundational question that you have to answer for yourself, because you can't scale your way to profitability.
Yeah.
And especially with a brand, if you're not profitable at 3 million, you're not going to be profitable at 30 or 300.
Yep.
I think there are these select examples of companies that were unprofitable for a very long time, but we're talking about Amazon and a few others. There's a pragmatic reality for every brand, which is funding is only going to amplify both your opportunities and your problems. So if you're unprofitable today and it's not working, adding funding is going to just make that worse. I think the second question that any founder has to ask is, do I have the team right now that I'm ready to bring this funding on? I think Hansaji was incredibly fortunate, had a very advanced finance function. Cecile, Richard are at the back. So Hansaji was ready to take on that funding.
Yeah, so if you look at the Blue Bloom experience, we actually have followed very much what the journey that Simone was talking about, which is starting off with seed funding and angels, and how you go about that. Really, it's being honest about what your business needs are. So understanding your business really, and what your objectives are, what your longer term objectives are. And then in terms of finding a partner, then it's also being honest about, okay, where am I going to be at over the next couple of years? Because actually at that seed funding stage, you're not profitable, but you need some of that working capital to be able to take you to the level where you can get a little bit of scale into your business. So you're looking at that initial investor to be conscious of where you are in your business cycle, and where they've invested in other businesses of a similar scale and supported them. And so you're also looking at, I know it's something you're going to touch on, but you're also looking at what else can they bring to the table other than just finance.
Yeah.
So, we can manage the cash that's given to us, and you do have to, once you've received it, you have to be very protective over it. And so even as you go into your second, and as we are now in our third round of funding, you're still very conscious about how you spend it. But especially in the early stage, you're looking at a partner. Can they bring something else to the party?
Everyone around that table is aligned on, where we are now, where do we want to take the business to, and just making sure, there's nothing worse if you're not singing off the same hymn sheet as well.
Yeah.
Because then you're just going to have conflict at every board meeting, or, you're going to lose faith in that trust. It's probably the key advice. And I also say when we meet businesses, we like to have relationships with them for, 2-3 years before they're looking for investment, which I think, it's just really important for you to be able to go and see what type of investors there are out there and who fits with you, because it's not a one size fits all. We all operate in very different ways.
Communicate with your partners. So Emil mentioned overdrafts are the hardest to get through. They are if you ring us on a Friday and want the overdraft on a Monday. And we see that up to, Isabella's level in terms of large corp. If you tell us and you're doing the forward planning and you tell us 3 months in advance that you're expecting a pinch and you're going to need some support, we will absolutely support you. So it's that early communication, whether it's an idea, whether it's a difficult time in your business, whether you want to go down a growth route, whatever it might be, talk to us and talk to whoever it is that's part of your partnership.